Hello, welcome to Talk Americas. We're here with Pernille Dahlgaard, Chief Officer for Mc-Kinney Møller Center for Zero Carbon Shipping. I hope I said it right. It's a very long name. How you doing, Pernille?
I'm very fine, thank you, and you did very well.
Thank
I'm
you
impressed.
so much. Welcome to Talk Americas 2024 here in Panama City, and we just had a presentation today, or let's just say a panel of conversation in which you talk about a lot of sustainability, green corridors. Can you expand a little bit on the idea of the green corridors and why this idea is so necessary today?
Yes. So the history of the green corridors is that at COP26 in Glasgow 3 years ago, there was signed this Clyde Bank Declaration. And all the signatories, which are countries, agreed that they would contribute to create green corridors. Green corridors is basically a microcosmos of the world. So if you think of it, making the entire maritime industry go from black to green is a daunting task.
Yes.
But if we focus on a small part, say Panama or Chile to Japan, it's still difficult, it's still daunting, but it's yet just two ports, it's just a few vessels, it's a few cargo owners, it's a few fuel producers. So you kind of downscale this enormous task to become something that is a little bit more handleable. So the whole thinking of creating green corridors is a little bit like when you're a baby, you need to crawl before you can walk, you need to walk before you can run. With the green corridors, if we can make one green corridor, then we can expand. Imagine again, you have Chile to Japan, then you can make Japan to Singapore, then all of a sudden you have Chile to Japan to Singapore. You can put in more vessels, you can put in different cargoes, and in that way you can slowly, but faster than if you don't do anything, accelerate the green transition.
Excellent. We're talking about also, they mentioned, that the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, are very important here in the industry, are being considered here in the industry. The achievement, how do you see the carbon emissions? Are we moving forward to net zero emissions, or are we far away from it?
We are far away, but it is possible to make it. IMO agreed last year on a very ambitious greenhouse gas strategy, which will deliver until net zero by 2050. What is being negotiated right now and for the next 6 months is more specifically, how is that going to happen? So that's extremely important that regulation is reaching the right ambition level and emphasizes the right elements.
Now, public sector, private sector, they are main actors here. And plus all the actors from the maritime industry. How can we make all these stakeholders in this net zero game to work together, to collaborate? How can we achieve that?
That's exactly what we try to do at the Mc-Kinney Møller Center for Zero Carbon Shipping. Collaboration is really the core of why we exist. So when we were established, the thinking was that unless you get the full ecosystem to collaborate, you cannot solve the very complex problems that individual companies can't solve by themselves. So we are partnering with 24 of the biggest multinationals within the full value chain of maritime. Each of them are sending some of their best brains into the center, and together we try to find solutions to some of the problems that cannot be solved by individual companies. So you're absolutely right, collaboration is extremely critical for this transition to succeed. And when we talk about collaboration, we're talking all the way from fuel producers, energy providers, through shipping operators, ports, and also down to the cargo owners, because they all need to push in the same direction towards that shared vision of reaching net zero.
Very good. That's really the main purpose, I guess. Now, one more question. Policies, regulations, and that can be very daunting also.
Yes.
How do we harmonize or try to make some unifications in the regulations? Do you think a unification of regulations is important? Is it necessary? And how that can affect the way all these actors can achieve the whole purpose of net zero emissions?
You're absolutely right. The unification and the globalization of the regulation is critical because otherwise we don't create a level playing field. We need everybody to have to live up to the same rules because shipping is international.
Exactly.
So if you have regional or worse national regulation, that will sub-optimize the whole system. So we do need global regulation. And the luck here is that the International Maritime Organization is exactly doing that. They are right now designing the global regulation that will drive the industry to net zero. That said, we do see examples of regional regulation that, as long as it is regionals, is pushing in the right direction. A good example is the EU ETS and the Fuel EU, which is already now pushing shipping companies towards net zero. The region is big enough to be able to have an impact and to set the standard.
Exactly.
Likewise, we have in the US, we have the Inflation Reduction Act, which is incentivizing the production of green fuel. Finally, I think an example of what can have an easy ripple effect is from 2030 in the EU, shore power is going to be mandatory for all vessels above 5,000 gross tons. That means that all these vessels, they need to be able to do shore power,
Exactly.
which then again means that when they come to Panama and Panama offers shore power, well then that's a natural choice to go for it. So there you have a large region that sets a standard and through regulation, and that will trickle down to other regions as well.
Now, I know I said my last question, but I couldn't
That's
leave
okay.
without asking this. Panamanian scenario. How do you see the Panamanian scenario in sustainability? Do you see how much or how long is it going to take to Panama to achieve or probably try to achieve a net zero emission? How do you perceive the situation here in Panama? Your perception?
Yes. I think when we're talking full maritime picture, it's going to take 25 years. The ambition is 2050. That said, Panama has a lot of opportunities. You can drive decarbonization by simply using your canal. If you're giving preferential treatment to, say, green vessels, either through earlier access or shorter waiting time, or through lower prices, or the other way around, give higher prices to those that are not green, that will be a way to drive the very significant part of the fleet that goes through your canal all the time. So I think you're sitting on one of the keys to unlock an acceleration of the decarbonization.
Hopefully that collaboration will come soon.
I very much hope so.
Thank you, Pernille, for your time. Thank you for being
Thank you
with
for having me.
You're very welcome. You're always going to be a guest here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your stay here in Panama.
I'm very sure.
Thank you, and have a very good day. Thank you.